PPPs and the power industry are burgeoning in Nigeria, with the government working to ensure the environment is more robust and welcoming. On hand to help companies negotiate the legal aspects of these sectors is Detail Commercial Solicitors. Dolapo Kukoyi from the firm joins me now. Dolapo, Nigeria has the strongest of all African economies. How well set up are the incentives and regulations surrounding PPP and foreign investment?
For foreign investment, I would say that investors are well incentivized. Foreign exchange laws and regulations allow for foreign investors to repatriate their capital. Company law is also set up such that investors are actually able to own 100% of a Nigerian subsidiary or a Nigerian business. Coming down to PPPs, first of all, the Infrastructure Concession and Regulatory Commission, for example, it totally prohibits expropriation, which is a major concern for any investor who is actually making an investment in countries like Nigeria or in Africa. And we now begin to see more and more to encourage investment. We begin to see now that a lot of our agreements are looking a lot more at risk allocation such that it can encourage investment. And I'll give you a few examples. In the power sector, for example, you'd find that in the performance agreements, things like expropriation are actually events of default, or sometimes what we will call local political force majeure. Expropriation is defined, so it's not just the usual expropriation, but some things which could be termed expropriation. And in the event that there's an expropriation, you would actually have the private parties being compensated. So I would say that right now they're well incentivized.
How well developed is Nigeria's infrastructure, and where are the main investment opportunities?
It's clear that there's currently a dearth of infrastructure, and this is across oil and gas, across power, bridges, transportation, even when you talk about health, education, and housing. So there is obviously a dearth in infrastructure. But in terms of the opportunities are right. But I think what is most important is when an investor is looking to invest in Nigeria, you need to look at where government's priorities are and then be able to do a needs analysis on that basis.
Security is, of course, a challenge in Nigeria. What challenges does this pose for your clients, and what advice do you offer in this department?
There is obviously a security problem, but I would say, however, that it's predominantly in the southeastern parts or the northeastern part of Nigeria. That said, for everyone who's investing in Nigeria, if you're doing portfolio investment, for example, I would say there is really no risk. But if you were actually investing in an operating business in Nigeria, then I would say investors need to look at where they are investing, look at what risks exist, and then look at ways of mitigating those risks. There are some things that you need to think about that are key. One is choosing the right partners, and two is choosing the right professional advice, to help you navigate through the issues.
You actually had Detail's power practice. What does your firm offer in this area, and how established is the power sector in Nigeria?
The power sector in Nigeria is growing. It's growing very quickly, and that's because we are trying to get somewhere, in a very short time, because we need to get somewhere in a very short time. We offer advice around basically around power sector development. So whether it is an IPP startup, or first of all, the power sector privatizations, which we've been involved in since 2010, since it was restarted. So we've been involved in the PHCN privatization. We're also currently involved in the privatization of what we call the Nigerian Integrated Power Projects. We also do a lot of gas supply and gas transportation and gas purchase agreements. We also deal on the financing side of financing. So while we are on the project development side, we are also on the financing side as well, throughout the whole value chain. And we've become very well known for our power sector experience and our power sector knowledge. So much so that as a testimony to that, we recently got engaged on the CBN Intervention Fund, which is about 213 billion naira, which is supposed to be across the power sector value chain. There's been debt accruing in the power sector value chain, which needs to basically be dealt with so that we can have a power sector that's viable and can have proper investments in there. It's very interesting times for us as a firm.
Looking to the future now, and how do you see Nigeria's power and infrastructure sectors developing?
For me, it's very bright. First thing that the present administration has done is that they've actually done what everybody else has been afraid to do, which is privatize generation, distribution, and in the process of also privatizing to some extent transmission. So right now there's a lot that is going on. The generation companies which have been privatized now are trying to overhaul their assets to make them even more productive. The distribution companies are also trying to overhaul their assets and refurbish their assets, also looking at how more private sector players can come in to invest in gas supply and gas infrastructure. I would say that a lot is going on with all the moving parts going on. We are likely to see exponential growth in our power generation, in our distribution, in our transmission.